Hi, welcome to the Anatomy of a Green Kitchen. I'm Christy, and we're going to show you some simple, easy vegetarian recipes that you could use every day. Today we're going to be tackling tofu. A lot of people are afraid of it, they don't know it, they think it's bland, they don't like the texture, but I'm going to show you some really easy, tasty recipes that anybody will enjoy. We're going to start off with tofu scrambles, which is a fun, easy way to use tofu in breakfast, and then we're going to make that into a breakfast burrito. Then we're going to be using tofu as a thickening agent in a cream of carrot soup. And then last we're going to finish it off with everyone's favorite dessert, a vegan tofu cheesecake. There are two different kinds of tofu that we're going to be using in our recipes today. We have a firm tofu. This is more solid. It's best to be used in grilling or frying, or even if you wanted to bake it. We're also going to be using a silkened or a soft tofu. This is best used for sauces, salad dressings, or anything that you need like a smoother, creamier texture for. We're going to start by preparing our vegan cheesecake because this takes the longest. It has to bake for about 50 minutes. So you just want to set your oven, preheating at 375 degrees. You're going to need 1 package of firm tofu, soy milk, sugar, vanilla extract, maple syrup, and a vegan cream cheese. You're going to take a block of your firm tofu. This helps because there's a little less moisture in it and it won't be runny. The thing with tofu is it has to be drained. It's stored in water. So you just drain it. And then you are going to wrap it in just like a kitchen towel or paper towel. And this helps get some of that excess moisture out. You press on it lightly. You could even take something that's got a little weight to it, put it right on top, and just let that sit there for a few minutes, and it'll really get some of the moisture out. I'm using a pre-made graham cracker crust. You could find this at the grocery store or at a health food store. A lot of them are vegan and they don't have any animal products in them. But to make a graham cracker crust is fairly easy. It's pretty much graham crackers, sugar, and butter, or your butter alternative. It's a super easy recipe. We're just going to put this all into the food processor. Tofu, half a cup of soy milk, half a cup of sugar, 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. I actually like to use a little more because I like vanilla. And then we're going to use 1/4 of a cup of maple syrup. Maple syrup's really a more natural way of sweetening. It also has vitamins in it, which is always good. And then you're going to take about 8 ounces of a vegan cream cheese. A little thing that people don't realize about tofu is that it is a complete source of protein. So when you're a vegetarian or a vegan and everyone's like, well, how do you get your protein? Tofu is an excellent way of getting it. All right, now we're just gonna throw this and blend it up in the food processor. Now when you have that all blended, pour it right into your crust. It smells so sweet and good. And the good thing about vegan cooking is you don't have to worry about eggs or anything, so you can always taste as you're going along. delicious. And just gently tap out any air bubbles that you might have. And we're going to throw that into the oven for, again, about 50 minutes. It'll start getting golden brown on the top, so watch it. I've seen recipes that have done it for 30 minutes, but a lot of times people complain about having a watery, runny texture, and that's never any fun. So we're going to put this into the oven. While the cheesecake is cooking, we are going to do tofu scrambles. Now, one of the things I miss about being vegan is a really nice, well-done scrambled egg, and this has definitely helped my craving for that. So all you have to do, pretty much all it is sauteing crumbled tofu. And then there's a few secrets to making it kind of look a little bit more egg-like and giving it some flavor. So we are going to start with a bell pepper. Another little fun fact as I'm dicing this up about tofu. Tofu was first used in China about 2,000 years ago. It made its way into Europe through explorers and then eventually made its way to San Francisco, which is awesome. I love San Francisco. So as much bell pepper as you like. And you don't always have to use bell pepper. You could use mushrooms, you could use onions, whatever you might like in an omelet or any eggs. We're just going to throw this into a pan. We're going to use a little bit of oil just for sauteing. And you just want to do this or saute it until the pepper gets a little soft. And it really just gives a little more color and a really nice flavor. Some of the ingredients that you're going to be using for the tofu scrambles, we're going to be using turmeric. It's a really mild spice, but it gives it kind of like a yellowy color, so it looks like eggs. I like a little bit of garlic, a little bit of basil, and because we are making a breakfast burrito out of our scrambles, a little bit of the cilantro. I think it goes nicely with the other flavors that we're going to be adding to this. And always salt and pepper to taste. Depending on how many people you're feeding, you could use an entire block of tofu or you could just use part. A good thing about tofu is if you don't use an entire block, you could just put it in a Tupperware container with some fresh water and you could store it again and use it, maybe for like a week or so. Another way of storing tofu, you could put it into the freezer for about up to 5 months. The good thing about freezing tofu is that it gets an even meatier texture. It does change the color a little bit. It'll be a little bit more yellow, but it's great for making stuff like chicken soup, not chicken soup. Okay, our peppers are starting to soften. I'm going to turn on the heat just a little bit. And like I said, I've always liked my eggs a little bit well done, and I kind of do the same for the tofu. All you're going to do is take your firm tofu and crumble it into the pan. There we go. Things are always more fun when you get your hands into it. Now, this is like a medium-high heat, medium to medium-high. Flip that around. Now we're going to start to add our spices. The turmeric, maybe about a fourth of a teaspoon. And you just mix that around, and as it heats up and the moisture from the tofu is let out, it really starts to turn a nice yellowy color. You're going to add a little bit of garlic powder, a little bit of basil. Now these are all to your preference of taste, so if you like basil and you don't like garlic, you don't even have to use garlic. A little bit of the cilantro, salt, pepper. Just mix it around. I find if you let it sit a little bit on the heat, just kind of flatten it out on the bottom of the pan, it helps to pull out some of that moisture. Unless you like runny eggs, then you might like a little bit more moisture in there. As we're letting that cook, we are going to start the ingredients for our cream of carrot soup. This is one of the easiest soups, and it's so light and delicious. And for those of you that might be health conscious, using tofu instead of the cream as a thickener, tofu is cholesterol free, it's low in calories, and it's low in sodium. So it's a really healthy alternative to maybe a more decadent soup, or creams-based soup. We're going to take 4 large, medium to large carrots, have them peeled. Just cut off the ends. You want to slice the carrots to about 1/4 of an inch. The smaller that you slice the carrots, the quicker they'll cook. And we are going to be pureeing this soup, so it'll be a little easier, unless maybe if you're someone that likes chunky soup, you might want to keep them a little bigger and not puree it as much in the end. So a lot of people ask me what tofu is. Tofu, the word, is actually taken from the Japanese, and it literally means soybean curdled, and that's all it is. It is soybeans, water, and kind of like a curdling agent. The process of making tofu is really similar to the process of making cheese. That's why it comes out in those kind of like a brick form. So it's really not that scary. It's just soybeans. Just kind of cover the bottom of the pan of your soup pot with oil. Get the onions and the carrots started in the soup pot. You just kind of want to get them sweating. Till the onions are kind of clear, soft. Next, just like 1 or 2 cloves of garlic minced. I like to wait until the onions started cooking because I don't want to burn the garlic. This is one of my favorite tools. It's a garlic peeler. You just put the garlic clove in here, rub it back and forth, and out comes a perfectly peeled piece of garlic, because I know we've all sat there and struggled with the garlic skin. As we're waiting for our onions to cook a little bit more, I'm going to check on our tofu scrambles, which are done. To make it a little more fun, a little more interesting, we're going to make a breakfast burrito. And it's simple, simple, simple. And you probably have everything in your house to make it. Just going to take a tortilla of your choice. I prefer, well, flour is a little more pliable, obviously, next to corn, but if you want wheat tortillas, a garlic herb tortilla, and we're going to put our scrambles right in the tortilla. I'm going to use a cheddar cheese, but if you're not vegan and you're just vegetarian, whatever, you could use whatever kind of cheese you want. Just take a few slices of that. And then we are going to top it a little bit of salsa, your favorite salsa, or homemade, which I love to make salsa when the tomatoes are nice and ripe. Just wrap it up. Now just to kind of heat everything through, I have like a grill pan that I'm going to be using. Just going to now our pan is still lightly oiled. If you have like any kind of nonstick spray, you could spray that on. Just put the wrap in there, and doing this, it'll just give it a nice crunchy texture when we're done with it. Be delicious. Now back to our soup. Everything's cooking up nicely. Next, we're going to add 4 cups of broth. I'm using a vegetable broth, vegetarian. We're going to bring this to a boil, and then we're going to let it simmer until the carrots are soft, kind of mushy. It'll be easier to blend and puree. Also, we're going to be adding some fresh dill. Some of my favorite combination is carrots and dill. It's so good, and the fresh dill, it smells so clean and fresh. Depending on how much you like dill, I'm probably going to be putting in about ½ a cup. If you're not a fan of dill, a lot of people also like ginger in the soup, and you could have a gingered carrot soup, which is really delicious too. Now with our tofu, see how it's getting a nice golden crust on it, and that also helps hold the wrap together. What we're going to do now is prepare the tofu to go into the soup. I'm going to use a soft tofu, also stored in water, so it needs to be drained. Silken tofu has a softer texture, so you don't really need to like wrap it into the towel like we did with the extra firm tofu. We're just going to break it up into the blender. ½ a cup of soy milk to that. When blending liquids, always cover the top because it will inevitably come out of the top. Okay. And This is the consistency of our cream. That'll really help thicken up the puree and the carrots. Pretty much just want the carrots to be tender all the way through, so when we are blending the soup that you're not going to have chunks again, unless you want the chunks. Good way to check is taking a fork or a knife. Pretty much if they don't stick on it and they fall right off, they're done. Just going to take our soy milk and tofu mixture and put it right into the soup. Mix it through. Now it might look like there's chunks of tofu in there, or it might not look completely creamy, but once we blend it, everything will be together. It smells nutty and sweet, so good. You want to do this in small batches. Don't fill your blender up all the way because it will explode. I'm speaking from experience, so just take a few ladlefuls at a time. I would even do less than halfway. And you're going to be blending it for anywhere between 30 seconds to maybe a minute, depending on what kind of texture that you prefer. If you want more of a chunky texture, you would do it for less. And if you want more of like an airy, light, creamy texture, you would do it for more like a minute. You could garnish it with some fresh dill. Once the cheesecake comes out of the oven, you're going to want to chill it for at least an hour, maybe up to 2 hours until it's fully chilled. You could enjoy it plain. I mean, there's so many things that you could do with this cheesecake recipe. If you wanted to add a raspberry swirl to it, you could have. You could top it with anything. And actually today, I'm going to top it with two of my favorite fruits, kiwis and strawberries. The U.S. grows 2/3 of the world's production of soybeans, and much of this is used to feed farm animals. But if we took an acre of soybeans and produced that into tofu, we could provide 20 times more protein than an acre of cattle. And we made 3 easy, great recipes that even if you don't like tofu, you will definitely enjoy. We have tofu scrambles that we made into a breakfast burrito, a vegan tofu cheesecake topped with strawberries and kiwis, and a cream of carrot soup with dill. Well, thanks for joining us for this episode of Anatomy of a Green Kitchen, and I hope that you enjoy all of these recipes and that you explore tofu even more and come up with some of your own recipes. If you have any questions, you could always contact me at Anatomy of a Green Kitchen on MySpace, which the address will be in the credits. And I hope that you get to join us again for our next installment of Anatomy of a Green Kitchen.